as somebody who likes words, yourself, Corona is a great word to rhyme, though, and it sure it's got lots of.
It is, isn't it? Though only one previous owner.
There
But
you go. Keep going, keep going. It could be gold. So, are you in Canada today? I think
no, we're in Chicago.
Chicago. Is that?
Chicago. That's Alan town.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
that's where we are.
And
So
I see you played the Arctic Monkeys the other night. They got you on stage.
yeah. I did my little version of "I Want to Be Yours" and brought them on. Yeah. That was nice. That was nice.
Is that?
They were great. They were really good.
Oh, they're a great band, aren't they? I mean, is that the first time you've actually been on stage with them? I'm sure it isn't, is it?
Um, no, it isn't. No, but I think Hammersmith Odeon right at the very beginning. Yeah.
I mean,
And
I mean,
In Sheffield, yeah, that big one they did in that stadium in Sheffield. And
so going out in New York and doing it, was that a different experience, or was it?
an audience is an audience, really, isn't it? They're not handpicked, but I was amazed that it was like Beatlemania there. Really good, very young crowd, mainly
So,
chick.
so they're the Beatles, and would you be Alan Ginsburg or what?
Oh Christ, I hope not.
It's good.
Never in my worst nightmares was I ever would I ever be the Allen Ginsburg figure. He was always taking his clothes off.
Yeah, I didn't mean in lifestyle terms. I meant
Yeah.
in.
That always puzzled me about people. You know, there's quite a few people I know that think that things that could be improved if they took all their clothes off. I don't get it. I don't get it.
But as a wordsmith, do you appreciate Allen Ginsburg?
Well, a bit Howl, quite a piece of work, isn't it? Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, great. But
I
I was
mean,
big pals. Speaking of the Beatniks, though, out of all of them, I was big pals with Gregory Corso.
oh, right. So there was a communication. Well, how long did you know those people?
Oh, I knew him for ages. I first met him in an international poetry event that was held annually in Amsterdam. A guy called Ben Posset organised it, sadly no longer with us. But you got poets from all over the world doing in this sort of a weekend of it. So I met Yevgeny Yevtushenko, people like that. And me and Gregory particularly hit it off.
So would he see you as a fellow traveller, or would he see you as a very idiosyncratically Northern British outpost of the culture?
Do you know, I've no idea how he, how he's, but you know, we had things in common, and you know, we were some people you just hit it off with right away, and then much later on, I used to see him on an annual basis, even biannually. You know, he was always appearing in these international events and those all those poetry Olympics. I don't really remember that put on by the late Michael Horowitz. Stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap. That was the philosophy behind those poetry Olympics. Everybody got 8 minutes, even
Wow.
even if they'd come all the way from Russia. They'll only try Tesco principle on the Tesco principle, and stack it high, sell it cheap. Were a lot of fun, and you know that's where I met all my or some of my most of my contemporaries, you might say. But me and Gregory and I were proper chums,
I
and it
mean,
actually
yeah.
he moved in with Nico when she was living in Manchester at Sedgley Park. But for some reason, Gregory turned up in an adjacent apartment.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, obviously
So,
knew about Nico. I didn't know Gregory Corso had a Manchester phase.
yeah, he did. Yeah, Sedgley Park to be more specific. Yeah, I think they felt at home there, you know, with the because it's quite Jewish round there, so I think it kind of, reminded them of New York, perhaps.
I mean, in your youth, were the beat poets part of your sort of backdrop? I mean,
Oh
I know
yeah,
you're a
yeah, kind
dylanologist.
of. The first time I ever heard the word beatnik was the Johnny and the Hurricanes record, Beatnik Fly. So I thought, wow, what's that? A new dance or something? How do you do it? What's the steps to that? The beatnik fly. And that's the first time I heard the word beatnik. And then I started hearing the word used more regularly. So I went to the library and got out. Oh no! Then the next time I heard about it, there was a special beatnik edition of Mad Magazine, which was obviously taking the piss out of the whole thing. But still, I was kind of in on it, and I kind of wanted in. I wanted in. But the thing about a beatnik was, if somebody called you a beatnik, you had to deny it. Or, yeah, you had to deny it, or you weren't a beatnik.
Oh,
I don't dig labels, man.
yeah, a bit like the Fight
You know
Club.
what I mean? That
Yeah.
one, the Catch-22. If you say you're a beatnik, you're not a beatnik. I did enjoy being referred to as a beatnik, I've got to admit. So then I got a copy of The Subterraneans. The Subterraneans by Jack Kerouac. A sort of straightforward, it's beatnik, set among the beatniks of Greenwich Village, but it's a sort of romance. It's a regulation Mills and Boon thing, really. Well, not quite Mills and Boon, but you know what I mean, a romance, boy meets girl kind of. You've read it, haven't you?
Of
You read
course,
it?
no, it's famous for having no commas in it, which is fantastic.
Oh, is it? I
I
forgot
think,
that about it. But they
yeah,
made a movie of it, didn't they? They made a movie with George Peppard and Leslie Cowan. So that was I guess he was the most high profile, wasn't he, Jack? And then I saw him long after he was dead. I caught him on the Steve Allen show. They started running remember when they used to run the Steve Allen show? I think it was on Channel 4. And from 1957, they had some great people on: Lenny Bruce, Elvis, and Chet Baker, people like that. He was a real hip guy, wasn't he, Steve?
mm,
And yeah, they had he was playing the piano. Steve Allen was playing the piano, just busking it, vamping it, and Jack was sort of leaning on the piano, delivering his shtick. But he looked
I mean,
great. He didn't look like anybody's idea of a beatnik. He had a kind of dishevelled Tony Curtis haircut, Brooks Brothers Oxford button-down shirt, and a kind of faux tweed. Very preppy,
mm.
preppy, but elegant. Really, he was a very handsome man.
Was there Lenny Bruce make a profound influence on you? I could see a lot
Oh
of the
man,
Lenny Bruce
absolutely.
scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I mean, but I didn't really see any evidence of his work for a long time after I'd heard of him. Because the first thing you heard of Lenny Bruce, if you're my age, was him being turned around at the airport. I remember seeing
Mm.
it on 6 o'clock news, sick comedian. Denied entry and something. Well, sick comedian. That's the first time I heard that. I thought, sick comedian, what's that sick? I'm like, man, sick. It's so bad. He didn't let him in. So then when you hear it, when you hear his stuff, oh yeah, then I bought a softback book, the routines of Lenny Bruce. Right, I hadn't even heard him. I hadn't heard his voice. I'd seen pictures. Good looking cat, great suits. But then I bought this book of his routines, and it didn't. Obviously, there was no intonation in it or anything. It was just kind of cold print, which gave me no idea at all. But then I got a couple of albums of his, and the number of voices, the way he switched voices like that,
Mm.
incredible, incredible array of voices he had at his disposal. Great,
And,
yeah.
and the
But
energy.
yeah, and the energy. But I love all those Catskill comedians. I like them all. That was my kind of humor as a kid. Mad Magazine. You know what I mean? I mean, since then, I like Les Dawson and Bernard and those sort of people as well. But really, my the first gig I ever went to was Bob Hope.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
The first theatre gig I ever went to in 1958 to see Bob Hope. I've always liked that, that sort of. I liked Bob Monkhouse because it was on that model, that suave, observant, urbanite comedy.
So would you feel you were close to Bob Monkhouse than Lenny Bruce, or somewhere in the middle?
Somewhere around there. I like to think I could, I could do those Catskill resort gigs and pull it off. I think I could do. I think I could do it.
I think you could, yeah.
I think I could. I recently met name drop. But when I was in New York, actually, speaking of which, we were staying at, what was the name of that hotel where we stayed? I can't remember, the Harleston or something. Was that it? Anyway, it turns out it was the hotel that it appeared in the Subterraneans. I love a circular conversation. That's where where they filmed it?
It was the Malton.
The Malton Hotel. Yeah. So that's yeah. No such thing as a coincidence. That's what shows you're firing on all cylinders.
24/7 in the zone.
24/7, open all hours.
I mean, was there much of a beatnik scene in Salford when you were growing up, or was it just you and one other person?
Me and my pal Mike, who was at art college, he was a bit beatnik. He looked like George Harrison. Just my look to have a pal that looked like George Harrison. I always got second dibs on the chicks. Can you imagine? God, what a weight to carry.
But were you more like the Bob Dylan to George Harrison there? Were you?
Well, it wasn't hit then. I mean, it really wasn't. Thank you, Bob. But if you had kinky hair, I always had. My choice of hairstyles is very limited because of it's a bit kinky. But thanks to George, before George, if you were a skinny guy, forget it. You were better off being a bit on the chunky side. And then overnight, the Beatles, everything, I was beating off the chicks with a filthy stick. Suddenly.
Well, that'd be your leg, wouldn't it? I mean, did you actually want to take part in this as well? Was this the thing that sparked you into the world of showbiz?
What's that?
Or with the Beatles breaking big and the North getting a little bit of confidence about itself?
Yeah, I suppose so, in some imperceptible way, perhaps. But there again, people of my age, if you wanted to make it in art or the entertainment world, you had to go to London. That's just what you did. Nobody had a computer. Now you can make a classic album in your bedroom, but it wasn't like that then. If you wanted to make any impacts at all, that's where the business was. That's where the agencies were, and that was the template. Well, if you look at the stable of Larry Parnes, and you look at his stable of acts, that they were all provincial kids. Very few of them were Londoners. They'd come in there, seeking him out. Where might I find Lawrence Parnes? Who's going to completely make them over? They all got made over. They're given a fake name, got sent to the Dougie Millins for a suit, and they all became. There was a kind of identifiable house style, wasn't there, in the Larry Parnes stable? But if you look at the Billy Fury, Georgie Fame, Duffy Power, Vince Eager, Marty Wilde. They had a house style there that was so that was the thing. You had to go to London. Even the Beatles did. People go on about their lovable mop-tops from the north, but they couldn't get out of there quick enough. That's the way it was then.
But you didn't.
Provincial identitarianism I think, is a product of sort of independent record labels, really. Well, they didn't exist. They didn't really exist before punk rock.
But you didn't go to London initially, did you? You were still in
Yeah,
town.
I did really, as soon as I could, really.
But that what about 1980 or something? You were
79, 79, 78, 79. About the time when I went on tour with Elvis Costello and the Attractions, and Richard Hell and the Voidoids, and just everything was happening in London, you know.
yeah.
I've been forever on a train.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
You know, things were a little
Wait,
bit different then than they are now. I mean, John, nobody has to go anywhere now, do they?
no.
Look at this. Look at this, what we're doing here now. Who has to go anywhere? But then, you know, that's where, you know, if you want to make a record, you better go to London.
But you were in the 70s. You were still in Manchester, weren't you? And you were.
Yeah,
Was that frustrating? Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah. I was living with my friend Steve McGuire in Sedgley Park.
So waiting for the world to catch up with you, in a sense.
But I guess, yeah. Oh, I mean, no doubt about it. You know, I had a kind of my own little following in Manchester before anything else happened. You know, no, that's where it started for me. But you know, I had to take it to if I had to take it to the next level. Well, that meant moving to London.
And it was so fantastic when punk rock came along, and you just seemed to fit perfectly. I mean, there's no reason how that could have happened, was there? But it just did.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Well, I figured, you know, I'd heard the word punk poet used once in relation to Patti Smith. So really, that sort of put the idea in people's heads that it was a poetical kind of place. And you know, Richard Hell, Lou Reed, they all started. The late Tom Verlaine, they all began by writing poetry.
I mean, what do you see yourself as a poet? You're sort of in a lot of different fields all at once, aren't you? Or basically, you're just you, aren't you?
Well, I guess so. That's not enough, is it? Got to do something.
I mean, sometimes I've seen you do your live act, and it's about half an hour till you do a poem. And the rest of it's like a lot of free form and ad libs, which is fantastic.
It's quite, you know, there are times in the wilderness years, you know, when I didn't have any representation where, you know, I just kind of switched to comedy was a more lucrative stream than poetry, you know, so I kind of developed that side of things, really. Well, I didn't want to have to work for a living again. So I had to adapt to the situation. But now now I'm writing all new stuff all the time. And the stuff I write now is so much, in my opinion, so much better than what I used to write. I don't know, it set me free, something kind of threw a switch that made it happen for me with the poetry. I don't know what it is. It involves a kind of magic that I don't really want to interfere with.
Is it all about a love of words? You know, like your comedy and your poetry, and even when you're talking, you chew the words over and find about 20 meanings in one word, even when you don't. Even when you don't know you're doing it. Yeah.
I don't have an end in sight when I write anything. You know what I mean? I don't know how it's going to end or where it's going to take me. So I write the whole thing out until there ain't no more to say about it, and then I edit it all down.
Is there a lot of editing? Is that a big part of the Is editing a big part of the process?
In fact, it's great working with an editor, you know, which I did when I wrote my memoir, I Want to Be Yours. I did that with an editor, a wonderful woman called Rosemary Davidson. And it was very, very, we had a laugh about it, you know, the stuff that didn't get in, you know. She was quite right.
Yeah, you got to watch the lawyers. I mean, would would you say the greatest poem you could do would have about 5 words in it? Can you reduce it to?
But I choose those 5 words. Oh my God, no.
I don't want you to choose them. I just think, would you edit and edit and edit to get down something like a Japanese haiku or something?
Oh well, I've done a lot of those haikus. Yeah.
I know. I've seen you do them. Yeah.
Syllables. Yeah, I've done a lot of them. I've done even shorter ones than that. Yeah, like that one, necrophilia. Fed up with foreplay and all that palaver. Avacadabra. I don't know. I don't know how many syllables that is, but rhymes. But it's short.
Oh, somebody's counted them.
You counted them. Foreplay.
It's another part of it.
How is that?
Okay, I found this on the web for Is It a Part of Ellie, is that? Check it out.
I'm getting messages, John.
I don't know where did that come from. That was just weird.
Yeah, you getting them as well?
I heard that as well. I have no idea where that came from.
How many? How many, mate?
Fed up with foreplay and all that.
12, 16.
16. One short of a haiku. If I'd have surrendered that as a haiku, that would have been, you know what there's no Japanese translation for near enough.
That's a micro haiku.
It's got to be right. It's got to be 17, 1 syllable either side.
You could have to get another one in there.
That would bring great shame upon my ancestors.
You could have palaver ha.
Yeah. Could 16, hey? 16.
Also, what's great about a lot of your stuff is a lot of it's funny, but also it's quite dark as well, both at the same time. Is that something you enjoy as well?
Yeah, I like it, yeah. But there's got to be some kind of entertainment value in it, though, hasn't there? You know, something. I've written a great thing called The Wreck of the Prima Donner. And I've been tweaking it since 1985. I've been tweaking it. I was going to put it in a book of. I was going to put it in my book of short stories, short nautically themed stories, under the title "Astonishing Tales of the Sea." but I didn't write any others. But it's cracker. I'm trying to wonder how to get it published. It's kind of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, but on a ship.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that.
I can actually. I can see.
Yeah,
I can see where you can go with that. Yeah.
So when you say dark, I like that kind of dark. You know, Edgar Allan Poe dark. I love those Roger Corman movies with Vincent Price. You know, like The Fall of the House of Usher, Pit and the Pendulum, The Mask of the Red Death. He did a whole series, a whole run of them, didn't he? Roger Corman for American International.
I mean, are you somebody who's really immersed in culture? I mean, there's so many film references, music references, book references. Is that? I mean, that's to be hip. That's the hipster, the original hipster, isn't it? To be hip to everything.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, especially movies. Although my interest in movies ends around 1984. I don't know why. People became. I couldn't sort of suspend my disbelief, you know, with these really, really ultra gorgeous people with problems.
Yeah.
The thing, you know, you haven't really got any problems.
Yeah.
Have you, Brad? You know what I'm saying? Look, you look like that, you know.
Do you feel detached from the modern world, or have you always felt detached
without
from the world?
Unbelievably so. So now more than ever, you know, because I don't have any social media. Look at this. I'm borrowing somebody's equipment to conduct this very interview. I don't have any social media whatsoever, including a mobile phone, you know. But people used to, you know, when I first sort of told people that, they used to say, I admire you. And I used to know then that, for now, but your love will turn to hate. That's how I feel now. I do feel like I kind of, a bit of an outcast with regards to digital culture. Yeah, you can't even hire a car now that takes CDs. I don't know what a memory stick is. I can't believe I even know the word. I can't believe I just mentioned it. But I don't know what. I'm probably talking about something that's an antique now as well.
But by the same token, you seem very much part of the modern world.
Oh God, thanks very much.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not part of the modern world. I read books and newspapers. That'll be the next thing to go. Excuse me, I've got a cold. That'll be the next thing to go. Newspapers. They're on the way out. I get up at 8 o'clock and I go to the newsagents, and they've got about three copies left. Oh, unbelievable. I don't think they overorder anymore. They used to presuppose a certain amount of sales, didn't they? And then you sent them back to repulps, I suppose, and make tomorrow's newsprint. I guess that's what happened. But I think now, they don't order any more than they think they can sell. So they're just on the way out. They won't be around in 5 years.
No, I mean, that's
Hugh Grant and all those act-off people, they're kicking a dead horse. You stop kicking it, it's dead. Love newspapers. I like columnists. It's a great thing. Maybe it's just as good on the net. I don't know.
It is, yeah. It's just another way of arranging words in a different format.
But it's when you now.
I mean, when you work with the Arctic Monkeys, I mean, obviously they're not teenagers anymore, but they're younger than both of us, quite a lot younger. But
I still see them as children.
yeah. But do they speak to you like you're some survivor from 50 years ago?
No. Oh, no, not at all. No.
No, that's what I was thinking. I think they would see you as a contemporary.
I'd hate to be thought of as an elder statesman of anything, what I mean? No, it's all chummy and nice.
Yeah, so very much on an equal terms, really.
Well, we're in the same business. I mean, they're mega books. It's true, but they're stadiums where I'm theatres. Do you know what I mean? You can't fight the star system, for crying out loud. You don't like the star system, you shouldn't be working in the entertainment.
Yeah. Well, it's always good when something like that gets the spotlight, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I couldn't believe that all those, but how many were there? 18,000 the other night in Queens. And I couldn't believe that they unanimously knew who I was. I can't thank those kids enough for that. That's amazing. Between the Arctic Monkeys and the Sopranos, they've really kind of jacked up my profile worldwide, no doubt about it.
I mean, how did the Arctic Monkeys find you? When they're about 16, at that point in time, your profile was lower than it is now.
Oh, I didn't have any representation at all. I was lucky to have that particular gig. I think I was just sort of emerging from the shadows of the wilderness years there. I was on tour with the Fall, I think, and of clubs in the boardwalk. You must know that, John, right?
I saw you do those gigs. I saw you do a gig in Leeds with Frank Sidebomb to about 20 people. Yeah, and it was amazing. Yeah, and it was just like this. I thought it was a criminal. That was the audience. No,
John. Yeah. Don't look for justice in this life.
Frank never got the justice, did he? He would have had that turnaround as well now, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Although Frank was always in the public imagination in the north of England anyway, wasn't he? He got on TV quite a bit, didn't he?
He did, but his last gigs were in the Salutation in Manchester to 10 people. It's criminal.
I thought what was also criminal about Frank was that we can say it now that he's got out. I'm sure that but the Freshies, I thought they were great. I thought
great band.
Their first single was fabulous.
And also, Frank was a brilliant surrealist. He's funny, but he's also very surreal and quite off kilter.
Yes, very off kilter. Yeah.
It was a perfect double bill. I thought there was a lot of very northern surrealism going on.
One time we did Buxton Opera House with Charlie Chuck.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Remember him?
Yeah.
He's still alive, isn't he? Is he still alive?
He turned up at a gig we did about 5 years ago in Leicestershire. The town he lives in. Yeah, he's still around. Well, he was then. Yeah.
Good.
So
I like him.
So how did the Arctic Monkeys find you? Was it like somebody's uncle had a record?
Yes, that was it. I was doing the boardwalk, and it was a good crowd. It was a capacity crowd, it was me on the floor, quite a pairing. So it was a capacity crowd. I was just about to leave the establishment, and the owner, Jeff, I think his name was, he came in, lovely fellow, came in, he says, just before you go, Johnny, he says, we got 4 lads here, they did your stuff at school, and they like your stuff, and we think they're gonna be mega. So I always judge by names. I always judge about by the name. It's not foolproof, but I think if they've got the imagination to get a good name, they've got something going for them, sort of thing. So I said, well, what are they called then? Excuse me. He said, Arctic Monkeys. So I thought, well, that's a very evocative name there, Arctic Monkeys. What a fucking tragedy. A monkey shouldn't be in the North Pole or anywhere near. There aren't any trees there. God, that's an emergency right there. There's drama going on with a name like that. Arctic Monkeys, 4 syllables and all that drama. So I thought, well, these guys are seem to have quite a house style. So I said, yeah, sure. So they came in anyway. They were kind of, kids, children, just out of school. But it's nice that, isn't it? It's got that thing, they didn't answer an ad in the back of Melody Maker or whatever. They kind of got it together when they were school pals, and how nice.
Very old school, really, isn't it?
It is dead old school, yeah.
A gang of mates. Yeah.
But it's amazing that they've all progressed on their respective instruments to a terrific degree.
Oh yeah,
they're not carrying any passengers.
Amazingly talented. Yeah,
and Helders. I don't think there's a more in-demand drummer than Matthew Helders.
Yeah, he played with Iggy, didn't he?
I saw him with Iggy in France last time I was in France. Not the last time. But yeah. Kevin Armstrong and Matt. He hits them hard.
Oh yeah, and he's got the swing as well. Yeah,
he has got the syncopation. Yeah.
So your American jaunt, you got a British jaunt coming up as well, haven't you? You got
that's right.
Yeah, amusingly titled.
Is it? What's it called? Oh yeah, catch him while he's alive.
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah,
get him while he's alive.
What can we expect on this tour?
More of the same, and then some.
Yeah. How prepared, when you do a show, I know some people seem like they're making up as they go along, which is great, but they actually have it all learned. But I imagine you're somewhere in between. I imagine you got a framework and you go off on little jazz tangents. Yeah.
Exactly that, John. Yeah, you hit it on the button with that. Yeah. There's a level below which it cannot sink. But sometimes the night has wings. There's always something that has gone on that day that finds a reference point in tonight's act. So no 2 gigs are exactly the same, but I've got certain numbers that always feature.
Yeah, the part of the framework.
And there's a couple of opportunities to introduce a new one. As I say, I'm writing all the time, especially when I'm doing shows. I do a hell of a lot of writing.
I mean, a lot of it's actually spur of the moment as you're actually on the stage.
Yeah, well, I don't. No, it's worked up before it gets to the stage. You know, I mean, I don't do my homework on stage, but I work stuff up while I'm traveling. Yeah.
Is that because of the company you keep? I imagine with Mike Gary and Johnny Green in the car, there's going to be a lot of words flying about.
Absolutely, nobody ever shuts up.
How is Johnny? Is he okay?
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, terrific. I'll tell him you asked. I'm sure he'd be sending his regards to you, John. Yeah, he's fine. Great guy.
There's a lot of great tailoring on that tour, isn't there?
Great tailoring.
Yeah,
there is. Yeah. He'll be made up to hear you say that.
Yeah, it's almost the last kind of remnants of old school sharp.
That's right. The way Greeny describes his look is it's a kind of Irish thing, whereby you get a suit from Mr. Byright and just wear it into the ground, same suit every day for a month, and then throw it in a skip, and then go back to Mr. Byright for a replacement. That's a bit Lenny Bruce. He used to buy what he called kleenex suits. Capsule wardrobe. That's what you gotta have, isn't it? A capsule wardrobe, like a traveling salesman. And that's what I got. I always use here's a good one. Oxford shit like this one. Oxford. You never need to iron them. Limited color palette, so you can swap shit about.